pumpkin spice protein ice cream. You know, throw a little protein in there, a few spanks of spice, maybe a little bit of cinnamon. It's a beautiful pumpkin swirl of sweet glory. Damn, I love this time of year. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So last week we took on RJ's buffalo chicken pizza and I gotta say it was spot on. But now this week we're gonna tackle some more pumpkin love and I know you guys have been dying for it. So today we're gonna take on a pumpkin spice latte ice cream. But before we get into this, if you're new to the channel, smash the subscribe button and join the Better Buzz fam. Now I know for the last few months we've taken on a ton of different protein anabolic ice creams with a bunch of different flavors and a bunch of different ingredients and really just creating iterations off of Great New Set's anabolic protein ice cream. But today I figured we'd steer in a little bit of a different direction and give ourselves just one more tool under our belt when it comes to protein ice creams. Because the more options we can all put away in our little anabolic recipe black books, the better our nutrition game gets, and on top of that, the more fun we can all have living this awesome anabolic life. Now, just as a heads up, guys, this particular recipe is something that I've used over the last 5 to 6 years and has just really been my replacement for protein ice creams. And at the end of the day, once you actually make it the very first time, it really comes out like a true soft serve, very rich and creamy, but then also gives you the option to be able to refreeze it and then scoop, scoop, treat it like an actual ice cream. It's a super simple recipe to make, it doesn't require a whole lot of ingredients, and it doesn't require an extremely expensive blender. So without further ado, let's get into the pumpkin spice latte protein ice cream. So first up, in terms of ingredients, we're gonna go ahead and use 1 whole can of a fat-free evaporated milk. And then next up, we're gonna go ahead and use 30 grams of an unsweetened almond milk. And then next up, we're gonna go ahead and use half a packet of a Starbucks Pumpkin Spice Latte drink mix. Now, guys, just remember that this is a seasonal item. So if you guys are looking to try and substitute it out for different seasonings or maybe even different water flavor enhancers, this recipe also works with those as well. And then for this recipe, we're gonna go ahead and use an 80 to 20% casein to whey protein isolate mixture. Now, if you guys have a whey and casein mix, feel free to go ahead and use that. I've used this along with PE Science's whey and casein mix before, and it definitely works extremely well. But for this purposes, we're gonna go ahead and use Transparent Labs whey and casein proteins. And then to add a little additional spice to the pumpkin spice flavor, we're gonna go ahead and throw in a few spanks of cinnamon. And then obviously we gotta make sure we top this recipe off with a dash of vanilla extract. And as always, guys, to start this recipe off, we're gonna go ahead and use a bowl and a scale. And also, you can't forget, we're also gonna need a Ziploc bag. So for the first step, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and crank open our fat-free evaporated milk. Now, just as a heads up, guys, when you're dealing with cans and liquids, an easy way to make sure you get all of the liquids out of the can is to puncture 2 holes on opposite ends. So as you can see, I've got a hole punctured here. I'm gonna go ahead and puncture another hole on the opposite side. This is gonna allow for the air to flow through and allow you to actually pour out the liquid. Now that we got the evaporated milk in, we're gonna go ahead and pour in 30 grams of almond milk. Now guys, in terms of cinnamon, go ahead and use however much you like. If you wanna add some actual pumpkin pie spice seasoning, feel free to use that as well. It's only just gonna pronounce the flavor just that much more. And then we can't forget our good old vanilla. Boom! So when it comes to the Starbucks Pumpkin Spice Latte drink mix, we're only gonna use half a packet, which is approximately 16 grams worth. Now, just as a reminder, guys, if you wanna actually use your own pumpkin spice seasoning, feel free to. This just kind of gives you a more added flavor to just really kind of give you that latte touch. So we're gonna go ahead and continue to mix this. Just make sure that everything is dissolved and there's no actual pockets of dry ingredients, because once we actually freeze this, we don't want any surprises. So one thing I wanted to mention is that this smells absolutely amazing, and whatever flavor that you guys actually use in terms of a whey and casein protein mix, or even an actual flavored drink enhancer or powdered drink enhancer, you know, you want to make sure that the flavors really play off of each other. So that's why I use a cinnamon pastry along with the vanilla, and then also the Starbucks Pumpkin Spice Latte. And so all of those flavors just really come together very nicely, and the smell is just absolutely amazing. So we're gonna go ahead and toss this and put it into a Ziploc bag. So what you're gonna wanna do with this is actually lay it down in your freezer for a good few hours. Honestly, for me, when I put it into the freezer, I don't know, maybe wait about 3 to 4 hours. And this is obviously dependent on how strong your freezers are, what the temperature settings are. But for me, roughly about 3 to 4 hours is pretty prime. So we're gonna go ahead and lay this down because it'll make it a lot easier when it comes to actually taking this back out and throwing it into the blender. Here's the actual frozen batch, and as I mentioned, you want to make sure that you lay this down before you actually freeze it, so that way it's easier to actually break this frozen chunk up into smaller pieces and throw it into the blender, just because when you got smaller chunks to work with, the blender is going to actually work a little bit more efficiently. Guys, just as a reminder, once we start blending this, what your frozen mixture is going to look like is going to end up starting to turn into like Dippin' Dots, just really super small balls, and then we're gonna go ahead and add just a little bit of almond milk during the process, and that'll get it to the point where it'll start to be really creamy. We're just gonna go ahead and add just a little bit of almond milk, roughly about 5 grams worth. All right, guys, take a look at that. Now that is like a true soft serve. Look at that creaminess and the texture. Like, this is super creamy. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and plate this and then get into the 3 categories. We just got done making the pumpkin spice latte protein ice cream. Now, I obviously don't have it in front of me because if it were sitting here, it would be melting all over the place. So I've got it in the fridge, but let's go ahead and talk about the 3 categories. You know the deal: anabolics, taste, and craving. Now, with this recipe being pretty lean, the total calories and the macro breakdown for the pumpkin spice protein latte ice cream is 553 total calories, 5.5 grams of fat, 67 grams of protein, and 59 grams of carbs. Now, in terms of total calories and macro breakdown, I feel like we're in a pretty decent spot, especially when I look at a lot of the other anabolic protein ice creams that we've been making the last few months that included xanthan gum. Now, keep in mind that this protein ice cream actually makes roughly about a liter's worth of ice cream. And at the same token, that you can actually refreeze this and use this as, I don't know, a scoop ice cream. Now, when I actually take a look at the protein to fat ratio, I think we're in a heck of a good spot. 5.5 grams of fat for the entire batch, and on top of that, almost 70 grams of protein. I don't know what other type of store-bought protein ice cream would get you that same type of protein volume, and also with that far of a reduced fat. Now, at the same token, you could work with the anabolic protein ice creams that we've been working with you know, as of recent, but for those folks who aren't very particular with the xanthan gums, you know, this might be another option. And at the same token, this is something that you can also refreeze and then scoop, get yourself something similar to an actual ice cream. Aside from the protein and fat ratio, we also have almost 60 grams of carbs. So I think for a lot of folks, we probably would want to expect that number to be a slightly lower, but I also think about a lot of the other protein ice creams that we've been working with, and I feel like the carbohydrates have been roughly about the same range. So with that being said, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and rate this as a solid 8.7. I do think that there is room to be able to reduce the carbohydrates to a certain extent. However, you know, that might impact the overall creaminess and the texture of the overall soft serve or ice cream. Now on to taste. So here's what the overall soft serve is looking like. It definitely is extremely creamy. You can see just right how it falls right off the spoon. Definitely full in flavor. I mean, this is just straight like butter. This is just amazing. So let's go ahead and go into a quick taste test. Cheers. Oh my goodness. This thing hits so hard. Like, you could just see the creaminess in the overall texture and just how it falls, right? Like, I just don't think that this video is gonna do it justice. In terms of overall flavor, just really hits on all points. Obviously, if you guys wanna try out a bunch of different flavors, Chocolate has been one of my favorites. So what I'll typically do is usually use a whey protein isolate or a whey casein mix that is a chocolate flavor, throw that in. And if you want to add a couple little tidbits of sugar-free chocolate bits in there, definitely do it because it'll get you a really nice full fudge chocolate type of flavor. So good, so good. I'm probably gonna finish this while we're here. That creaminess is just on point. Holy smokes. So the fact that we're using drink powder mixes in this recipe, it gives you a ton of different options. Like for example, the Starburst recipe that we worked with off of Raphael Leon's, we could just as well take the Starburst drink powder mix, throw it into this, give ourselves a nice little Starburst soft serve ice cream. Now, just as a reminder guys, this is something that I've been making for the last few years and I just absolutely love this recipe and I hope that you guys can find some enjoyment out of this one as well. But we're gonna go ahead and rate this as a solid 9.5. I do think where there are kind of a couple of trip points for some folks maybe is that using evaporated milk for a lot of folks who may be lactose intolerant, you know, this recipe is definitely not gonna be one for you. So, I'm gonna take a little bit off the points from there. And then on top of that, if you're not a fan of a pumpkin spice latte, you can always switch that out for an actual pumpkin pie spice seasoning. Throw in some nutmeg, throw in some cinnamon, and you're gonna be golden. This recipe is extremely flexible. Make it to however you prefer your protein ice creams in terms of overall flavor. Just as a reminder guys, these packets don't have any caffeine in them. This is what it looks like after having let it sit out for about 15, well, probably 20 to 30 minutes. Literally just pulled it out of the freezer. I scooped it out of this bowl right here. And this is what you get. Now, just to kind of give you guys a frame of reference in terms of like texture and overall consistency, it is just a tad icy after having frozen it. So the best way that I could probably describe it is if you've had Halo Top, that texture is very similar to what you're gonna get here. If you do let it sit out, I'd say probably give it a good 30 minutes and you'll be pretty solid. And it'll be to the point where you can really just easily scoop it out. I kind of waited a little bit less than that, so it's still a little bit firm. But you can see right here, definitely, I don't know, for me it's pretty good. So, give it a shot. In terms of taste and overall flavor, everything is still on point. If you guys prefer a soft serve, obviously throw it into the blender, give it a good whip, and you'll be good to go. And now, is this gonna satisfy your craving? Hell yeah, it's gonna satisfy your craving. So in terms of overall craving, I really do think this is gonna hit home for a lot of folks, and I think a lot of folks will appreciate this. Now, with that being said, in terms of the overall sweetness, that sweetness level is gonna play off of, one, your whey proteins. So the sweetness level is definitely gonna play off of that. Obviously the evaporated milk is gonna be a little sweet as well. But in terms of, if you're looking for something that's just exorbitantly sweet, feel free to add some additional sweetener in there. And then in terms of overall texture and consistency, I really do think this just absolutely hits very close to home in terms of a true soft serve. So from that standpoint, I'm gonna go ahead and rate this as a solid 10 for craving. However, with that being said, if you really do appreciate the fluffiness and just the overall volume that you get with the anabolic protein ice creams that use the xanthan gum or the guar gum, definitely make those. I mean, those things are extremely voluminous and will get you to the point where you are stuffed. So, these are just an additional option to the anabolic protein ice creams that we've been making. And, at the end of the day, the more options that you've got, the more you'll have fun eating and enjoying life when it comes to losing weight. Well guys, we just wrapped up the 3 categories: anabolics, taste, and craving, for a total score of 9.4. Man, this was an absolutely fun one to build because this is one that I absolutely love and have made for so many years. And I hope that you guys enjoy this recipe. Give this recipe a shot. Let me know what you guys liked. Let me know what you didn't like and what you guys did to improve it. So guys, I'm gonna go and wrap up this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed today's pumpkin spice latte protein ice cream. Make sure to smash the subscribe button if you're new and give this video a big fat like so that we can all help spread the channel and reach the anabolic hearts and minds of others. But otherwise guys, stay safe, stay swole, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.